Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you a video on just, update you where I am. Obviously you could tell during the holiday season, which as of now I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That I'd been away and I missed some of the big events like UFC 92. I didn't really get to talk about a lot of stuff. There's some stuff I'm going to talk about. I plan on watching a lot of stuff. I mean, there's going to be the New Year's Eve K1 Dynamite show, which I've seen, I've heard reviews of it, and I said it was a really good, really interesting card, as you had a lot of mismatches when you thought for sure one guy would win, but it ended up being the exact polar opposite. That happened a lot of the fights in, both MMA bouts and the kickboxing bouts. That happened a lot. I also want to have to check out Sengoku 7. I heard, it really wasn't that good of a showing by Sengoku again, like their third disappointing performance in a row, which makes you have to question how this promotion's going to handle, especially in the economy, which seems to be hitting Japan, pretty hard, as Pro Wrestling Noah just lost their TV deal with NTV in Japan, and it looks like New Japan Pro Wrestling could be in the same jeopardy as that with TV at Toshi, or so, I believe that's the name of the television network there in Japan. So that's going to be interesting. Also, speaking of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I have seen parts of the Wrestle Kingdom 3 show. Gotta say, really love their hype video. I think they get the card over super well. I think, Wrestle Kingdom, their hype videos do a great job of getting the whole, gear for pro wrestling, set it off right. But overall, the matches I've seen were kind of lackluster. I was disappointed in the Mystico, Prince Devitt, and Taguchi versus Averno, Jado, and Guido, as I would have liked to see more Mystico versus, Jado, Guido. I mean, we know what Mystico can do with Averno in there, but I mean, they basically let CMLL was trying to protect their guy, and only letting the guy they also brought over from CMLL in Averno work with him throughout the match, which I mean is okay, I guess, but maybe for the early portions of the match, which they actually did do in the match. But later on in the match, let's have the mixture of styles, which is always something really interesting to me. We're mixing a strong style with lucha libre. I think that's going to be really interesting there. I mean, I guess the fans were into it because this one was more or less a spot fest, especially with Mystico. I mean, he did some pretty good technical stuff. I mean, it was a really nice headlock spot he did with Averno, but really he made Averno his, launch pad, the person to catch him off spots, off springboards, which you're saying, well, that's basically lucha libre. It works, but this is a completely different audience who they don't really want you to see, that, especially a New Japan crowd, where they're more of a hardcore crowd. Really, it was very interesting to see how New Japan booked with TNA, as, any TNA match, TNA guys went over. Now, the only one, I guess, is sort of the exceptions one with Chono and Choshi, or Choshu, I should say. I mean, as they went over, I mean, that was clearly expected when their opponents there. So, I mean, that was not surprising, but I was, kind of surprised to see TNA, or New Japan, let the guns go over, but I guess, I've been told by some people who, actually live in Japan that, TNA, New Japan's trying to market TNA as something, super valuable, as they're trying to keep their work connection going strong, which, it seems strong with actually they're using it, but end result isn't doing well, as, from both companies, especially when TNA brings in, Tanahashi in, who is now the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Not working out that well for them. But, I mean, just, silly booking to me. I mean, I don't understand, really, I mean, to keep bringing the guns in, I wouldn't have had them go over No Limit there, as I feel, the IWGP Junior Tag belts just flop hands so fast. I mean, once No Limit won the belts from Minoru and Prince Devitt back at New Japan's Destruction card in October, I was really excited for No Limit, as, they were going to go on for a long run and, be champions up until this point, but then, they had to drop them to Jado and Guido. Wasn't a big fan of that, but still, I would like to see more of the card. Want to see Liger's 20th anniversary match. Want to see definitely the main event of Kejimoto versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, which I'm really expecting to be really good. Apparently a lot of the fans there were more Pro Wrestling Noah fans, so they got to see Misawa. I really want to see Nakanishi versus Akiyama. And, you know, also Masato Tanaka versus Yuji Nagata, which apparently is going to be aired on the Global Impact special along with the TNA matches as Jeremy Borash introduced this one. And to me, this makes perfect sense to see a year later how Kurt Angle's opponent from Wrestle Kingdom 2 does. So anyway, that's where it's going to be. So just want to get some stuff there. Now, mentioning question and answers, I'm about to do that for you right now. But I've created a couple of places where you can send some questions. One's an email, which will be over here. It's simple little hotmail I'm just using for questions. I don't use anything with that. Send questions there. Also, you can send them on my Myspace, and that's on my URL there. You can send it there, which is going to be, you know, fine. I just want to, you know, if you have a different set of questions, as you can tell here, the questions I'm about to answer, and you'll see in the description box, those are the type of questions I like. But I guess before I get to there, I mean, there's still a lot to talk about, especially with the steroid reports from Congress as Waxman hands over his documents as he's not senator of that state anymore. Really, I don't think anything's going to happen of it. I still got to read the documents to give you a full opinion on it. And I still have to see the wrestler as I plan on going seeing that sometime this week. But anyways, let's do some question and answers here. First question is, who are your favorite up-and-comers for MMA? Really, there's a ton of people to me. You got, Mark Munoz, Wilson Hayes, Donald Cerrone, Jake Rochalt, and Shane Carwin, Jorge Santiago, who has recently won, I believe, the Sengoku Heavyweight title. I believe that was his weight class, or at least light heavyweight. And Cain Velasquez. To me, a lot of these guys have, you know, great marketability. I mean, you got Mark Munoz, who is a marketable fighter as Hispanic, which I think is a market that MMA needs to hit on big time. And he's also a Christian, and, you know, he can add those types of markets in there. Plus, you know, he's got great hand power. He's 5-0 right now. Maybe sometimes records are overrated, but, you know, 4 of his wins are by TKO early or midway through their fights. So that's where I go with there. Wilson Hayes, to me, he's a great fighter. He's the first and only Bantamweight championship as that promotion, you know. We all know what happened there. But you see, he fought a really good fight on the ground. I can't remember the name of his opponent right now, but he had a good ground war. You know, he held his own there. Even when he was in trouble, he was able to slip out of it. He was able to have good ground control, side control. He's someone to look out for, and he's someone I believe, you know, maybe the UFC could be interested in, as, you know, Dana White's now interested in, you know, a lot of the fighters from Elite XC like Jake Shields, Gina Carano, Robbie Lawler. Bringing those guys back to the UFC, but I think you could bring Wilson Hayes into the WEC, and he could do, you know, fare very well for himself there. Going up against, you know, a Favor or a Pulver, maybe a bit too quick, but I think he could do a pretty good job there. Or I shouldn't, I guess that's more actually featherweight. Excuse me. I think, you know what, him and Brian Bowles would be a really good fight. That's the one I would go for there. Rochalt, we've seen him in the WEC. Unfortunately, in his contract deal, all his fights have to be on TV, which is kind of stupid, especially for someone. I don't like that at all, that you have to broadcast certain ones' fights when you really haven't proven yourself yet and you're still up and coming. I think, you know, Jake Rochalt, he's a good wrestler who, you know, he can mix with you on the ground and pound, as, you know, he got his victory there. But back at WC 36, but still, he still needs a lot of improving. He needs to work on the stand-up, as I felt, you know, stand-up, he lost the fight there. Was about to lose the fight. I can't remember the name of his opponent right now, but that's just that. Donald Cerrone, definitely an up-and-comer, a very exciting fighter, someone who, you know, should really market the Cowboy Cerrone. He's taken on, I believe it's now Jamie Varner for the lightweight title. I believe that. Can't remember off the top of my head. I believe it is Jamie Varner. So I think he's going to be doing really well there. I mean, I've seen parts of his exciting fight with Razor Rob McCullough. Very exciting fighter. He's some good guy there. And then you got, you know, the UFC's prodigy for the heavyweight division that, you know, they truly have created for themselves there, and that's Shane Carwin. He's taking on Gabriel Gonzaga, I believe, at UFC 95. That's going to be his first true test. I mean, he's finish people pretty quickly and, you know, manage them well. Great stand-up. He can finish a fight. He's a strong fighter. And finally, two guys who I think go back to the first guy in Mark Munoz is Jorge Santiago and Cain Velasquez. Both last names are Hispanic, can draw that crowd in, which I think is needed. As if you look at boxing, there are a lot of Hispanic fighters and a lot of Hispanic fans, have an outlet where they can, see idols. Well, MMA right now is clearly surpassed, well, I shouldn't say clearly, in the pay-per-view realm, but is more of an accepted sport on television, as more people will watch MMA than boxing at this stage. And, both those guys can do it themselves. Velasquez, he had that whole AKA situation there, but still, I think he's a good up-and-come fighter. He's great stand-up, strong on the ground as well. Santiago, both in the same category. I think they're very good fighters, which is a big reason for them being up-and-coming, and they're talented, as, Jorge Santiago proved in Sengoku, I believe it's either light heavyweight or heavyweight. Someone can correct me here, but that's just my opinion there. Next to the questions here are, what are my thoughts on the rumor of Chuck Liddell versus Anderson Silva happening at London in February? Well, obviously that's not going to happen now, as apparently they're trying to do Liddell versus Wanderlei Silva, and Anderson Silva is taking on Talas Leites at UFC 97 in Montreal, which I plan on attending, as that card's going to look pretty stacked as some of the rumored fights that I've heard about there. But really, you know what, I don't think that's the fight you need to go for now, as both guys are complete polar opposites, where, Liddell suffered a crushing loss to Rashad Evans at UFC 88, and, he to be, why would you go from a crushing loss to taking on a fighter who could crush you very early in the bout? Yeah, it would draw you good money, but it would just look like, it wouldn't be good for Liddell anyway. I mean, yeah, he'd still draw, but that fight would kill him in marketability, in the long run, which is something he wants to attain there. Anderson Silva isn't that big of a draw here, but him and Liddell, it would add something to him. Beating Liddell would be a great name, but I mean, it just makes Liddell seem like a sideshow and kind of a jobber at this stage. The fight, would it be good? Probably, if we got the Chuck Liddell that we got against Wanderlei Silva, but other than that, he hadn't been lackluster. I mean, Silva's been on another spectrum, since he had that kind of disappointing fight up against Patrick Cote, but that really wasn't his fault there. But I don't know. I was more upset with him and not trying to engage the fight more. Anderson Silva wasn't being Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was being a cautious fighter. But anyways, that's just my thoughts there. What do I think of the UFC heavyweight division? If you asked me this question at the end of 2007, I thought this thing needs massive improving, but look at it now. I mean, there are stars in the heavyweight division is the most focused division, and it's one of the most it's the second most packed, if me saying, in third most packed division behind middleweight. It's light heavyweight, middleweight, and then heavyweight. I mean, look at what they got going there. They got you got Brock Lesnar. Who would have thought this guy would be a superstar in, the heavyweight division in the UFC, the biggest mixed martial arts promotion in the world, at the beginning of 2008, I should say. Then you got, you had Frank Mir have a resurgence, and they're going to, first of all, they're going to have their rematch there. You had Big Nog, Antonio Minotauro Nogueira, still a legend of the sport, he unfortunately lost there to Frank Mir, and, getting finished, which, we hadn't seen in a very long time, but still, this heavyweight division is actually really stacked. I mean, you have a good fighter up in Czech Congo, Mustafa Al-Turk, he ran into Czech Congo there at UFC 92, but I still think he's a good protege. Shane Carwin, Gabriel Gonzaga, it's a really stacked division. And, now that Elite XC's dead, they could potentially bring in Bigfoot Silva after his suspension's up with the California State Athletic Commission. A lot of people they could bring in too, so we'll see where we go from there. I mean, the only guys they really are lacking at the interesting state of rebringing in Andrei Arlovsky and who else should I say? The only guy they're really missing to make their heavyweight division super again is Fedor, but that won't happen. And then you had Couture return, so heavyweight division's doing a real good job there. Should UFC 93 been a Spike TV fight? No. I kind of thought it should have been, but then, you have to look at it from a business standpoint. One, it's your first card of 2009, so you can't give that away on TV, even though apparently UFC is also going to be like HBO Boxing this year, and, because of the poor economy at this state, have less pay-per-views and more TV stuff, so that's going to be interesting there. But yeah, this card, you know, you got a really dream fight in Rich Franklin versus Dan Henderson. Really going to be a good fight there at light heavyweight. Really exciting. And then you got, you know, a rivalry that, you know, on their countdown shows, they really need to market in Mark the Hammer Coleman versus Mauricio Shogun Hua. Really strong fight there. Going back to back in Pride when, Mark the Hammer Coleman broke Shogun's arm. You know, that's something that actually has a real drama, as both guys don't like each other. Not just from that, but apparently Shogun feels that Coleman disrespected him. You know, he's a true person. He's, you know, a two-faced person. Add some drama to that. Sell that up, and this card can, you know, get some interesting buys. And it's got a good fight for the... Both fights are more for the hardcore fans, but, you know, you're making a debut in Ireland. You actually put on a pretty good card there. I think, you know, live attendance will be good because it's the first card in Ireland. Should be a good thing there, but no, definitely not on Spike. Spike's, you know, going to get the replay of UFC 91 in the coming weeks to counter Affliction Affliction Day of Reckoning. And, you know, there's going to be more fight nights. We've already heard the lineups of fight nights coming down, so no, they don't need to have this one on up there. I mean, definitely, it's not the best way to go in, as there's going to be so much actual UFC on TV. I mean, this the super new countdown show with Penn versus D. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of UFC on TV anyway, and there's going to be the fight nights, so no, this didn't need to be on there. Is ESPN doing a good job covering MMA? They're doing an okay job. I mean, you have to look at the fact that ESPN right now, they really can't market MMA full-time unless there's a big fight, which they really did with Couture and Lesnar. I mean, right now, there's, you know, the NFL playoffs, so that's clearly a big focus. You also have to look at then after NFL, they more focus on the NBA and, you know, any of the Major League Baseball signings, and then Major League Baseball gets to be a forefront. So MMA is doing, you know, ESPN's doing an okay job marketing MMA. I think they're doing a really good job with, you know, the podcast. I believe it's Inside MMA. That's the name of their show. So, that's not Inside MMA. I forgot the name of their show there, but they're doing a decent job at that stage. But, I mean, could it be in room for improvement? Yeah, but, I mean, they're not going to get any great airtime. I mean, it's probably on ESPN too. I mean, you're talking to a guy who doesn't have ESPN, but from what I've seen, they seem to have, you know, knowledgeable people on there. I mean, they got Frank Mir as one of the ghosts, and, you know, they interview some of the top people, so they're doing a decent job. Could it be room for improvement? Yeah, but you won't see it on the main network for a very long time. And do I think Russo needs to go from TNA? I don't know. I think Russo's always one of those guys that he's got some dumb ideas, but in a business where, you know, things keep changing, at least he has ideas where, you know, most people in the WWE, they're just overrunning storylines or overusing stuff that, you know, the new fans haven't seen, which I guess in a way is smart because, you know, if it was successful before, why won't it be successful again? I mean, Russo to me just goes over the top because in WWF, he had Vince McMahon to be that filter, which was always a key for him because he'd always go over the top. When you look at his run in WCW, he got full control, and look where WCW is. Oh yeah, they're dead. Now I'm not saying that he completely killed it himself. It was Time Warner. It was the, you know, creative control that killed it. It was, you know, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. It was the fact that they only cared about ratings. Basically, it's all that, but I think Russo, does he need to go from the company? Maybe. I think they could maybe give the book over to someone else. I can't really give you a fair opinion, as I feel Russo gets too much of the flack for the stuff you see on TV. Clearly, I think Mantell could use some more criticism there, but does Russo need to go? I guess I should say yes. I mean, they should think of direction. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there available that are, you know, free agents. I mean, you had Steve Carino, who did work for you in the past, but left due to Russo being there, but I mean, there's a lot of, like, bring Raven back to book. I mean, I think Raven would be a great booker. But anyways, that's just my thoughts there. Do I think the ROH product's deteriorated since 2004? No, I mean, if you look at the next year after that, 2005 was like one of their most successful years ever. I mean, they had probably one of the best, in my opinion, in Manhattan Mayhem. You brought in Kenta Kobashi. I mean, the product keeps growing and growing. In ring, it was still really good. I think it needed the change here, as you know. At 2004, they started going super strong. into the direction of, more of the All Japan style, of strong style in North America, or I should say the Japanese Puro strong style, and then, it escalated. I mean, look, a lot of the thing is the company changed a lot due to the TNA taking, their talent, so they kept making new stars. They did a really good job there, but do I think the product's deteriorated? No. I mean, it needed a change. I mean, it was getting lackluster, really. I mean, yeah, you had some good matches, but, you kind of kept getting burnt out. It's like, we can't have the same length of shows, so I'm looking forward to see the new direction. I think no is the complete answer. Has the product deteriorated? What happened to Jason Cross? Jason Cross is still working in independence. For those of you who don't know, Jason Cross used to work for TNA back in the days when it was NWA TNA, doing the Wednesday night pay-per-views for $10. He had a really sick finisher, which was the Crossfire, which I believe Teddy Hart got mad at him for using it, and that's why he stopped using it. But Jason Cross, he's still working in the independent scenes in Georgia. He's apparently the Georgia Championship Wrestling, not Georgia. I think it's an independent promotion in Georgia. I don't want to say it's Georgia Championship Wrestling, but he's their heavyweight champion now. So that's where Jason Cross is. My thoughts on the British boxers like Ricky Hatton, Amir Khan, and Martin Rogan. Ricky Hatton, you know what? He's the best boxer in England. Really, to me, I like Hatton a lot. I like his style, I like his motion, I like his movement, his style, and the fact that it seems like that common dude who you can chill with, and he's got some logical ideas about what boxing can change. That's one of the reasons I like him, not only for what he can do in the ring. Yeah, I mean, like, really, he's lost his only big loss was to Floyd Mayweather, and that's it. Amir Khan, to me, he's someone I like. He's kind of got the same momentum as a boxer here in Canada by the name of Steve Molitor, who, both of them were in the same patches, actually, different times in their career, but which was last year, 2008, but Amir Khan's able to overheard that hurt as he lost to Dirrty Prescott, in the first round in dominating fashion. I mean, if you haven't seen the fight, just type in Amir Khan and you'll see Amir Khan KO, and that's Amir Khan getting killed, and, one of the biggest lows, because boxing as a sport is, in pro wrestling, we know it's a work, and, a loss doesn't really, a couple of million losses really won't hurt you if you're a big draw, but in boxing, if you're a big draw and you lose like that, it can be over. I'm saying in mixed martial arts, a big draw can lose in stunning, but he will be given a chance to come back. Boxing, just write you out. They will just you out, and that'll be it. But Amir Khan, he got to come back when he took on Osim Fagin, and he came back and dominated him, and I believe he TKO'd him in the second round. I mean, he was a champion over there in the lightweight division. He beat a lot of people there, but he held that belt for a very long time. But that loss to Prescott was shocking, and I'm happy he beat Fagin there. And Martin Rogan, I like Martin Rogan. He beat oddly Harrison, who's a tough customer. I mean, Martin Rogan's one of those fighters who I think can, is someone who's good in the British scene, and he's someone who can be a bit of a cross between draw, and I think you could bring him up here and he could, have some of the same success that Joe Calzaghe had. What are my thoughts on the retirement of Victoria? Well, to me, I don't know. Victoria, to me, is just someone who shouldn't, be seen on TV and could be, an agent or a trainer. I think she's got that great quality. She doesn't really need to be in the ring anymore and, job for the millionth time. But that's just my thoughts. The retirement, well, I don't think she wants to... I guess she does want to... I think she wants to retire and she wants to cover it up just because she's the WWE. No, I don't want to retire. No, I mean, you kind of want to get out and, help run, your pizza's job. I clearly think she wants to, a change in her life. I mean, she's been doing at least in WWE since, what, 2002? That's a long time away from your family, and help, you could run this pizza business and, be free from bumps and, having to take drugs to heal up your wounds or, work on short injury notice. But, you could stay in the business you love in pro wrestling, I think she'd be a great trainer and manager, so that's what I think there. Some of my thoughts on the wacky creations from the USWA. Those of you, my favorite gimmicks, or my favorite creations from the USWA. See, the USWA was basically a thing to counter, it came from, the debacle of Pro Wrestling America, which tried to be number 3 to the WWF and Jim Crockett Promotions, which eventually became WCW. Really, to me, the USWA was okay. My favorite from it were, you know, the bad ones, to be honest with you. There were a lot of bad ones. I mean, there was Cowabunga, who was a freaking Ninja Turtle. There was the Christmas Creature. There was Gravedigger, who was a freaking Undertaker ripoff, wore exact same Undertaker attire and had his look. There was the Hornet, who was a complete identical ripoff of Sting, much like Gravedigger. But to me, some of my favorite successful gimmicks were PG-13, which, you know, some will say PG-13 did come before Public Enemy. I guess I can kind of agree with that. But PG-13, you know, JC Ice and Wolfie D, great tag team. Not the best in the ring, but they had charisma and can draw some serious heat. And you have a guy by the name of Flex Kavana, for those of you who will know him as The Rock, which is basically kind of like the original Rock, but kind of PG'd, not what the WWF thought of Rocky Maivia. That's what they should have gone with from the USWA, but USWA was born to fail. I mean, it was a Jerry Jarrett and Fritz Von Erich merger, since I guess Fritz completely wanted to leave the business. Jerry Jarrett's CWA and Fritz's WCCW came and merged and got that. A lot of big-time workers came through there, like Jerry Lynn, and Jerry Lynn was a big one. You had Jerry Lawler in here at the USWA too. Eventually it became just Jerry Jarrett's promotion, so basically that's it. Best and worst angles in your opinion? That's kind of a long, hard one to do here at this state in the video, but I don't know. I mean, I was a big fan of, you know, a lot of my stuff is promotion feuds, kind of like UFC K1 behind the scenes, in the ring and pro wrestling, I guess, you know. It would be Tiger Mask Dynamite Kid, to me, is one of my favorite feuds. You know, just a whole bunch. I mean, I would have to go, I mean, it's just such a hard one. Midnight Express feuds with, you know, with the Midnight Rockers, not the Midnight Rockers, Midnight Express feuds in general. You know, a lot of the stuff there. Savage Steel is a favorite of mine. I'd have to go, you know, basically NWO versus WCW, NWO Japan, you know, Chono versus Muda. Puerto Rico, I mean, I'm a big fan of more stuff behind the scenes. It's interesting there. But, you know, in the ring, there's a lot of, that's just such a hard question to think of at this stage. And thoughts on the wrestler, has 4 nominations for the Golden Globes. What do you think about that? I think it's a good thing. I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've heard such good things. I mean, why not? It can help boom the business, which is always a good thing. Now, will it get plugs for indie promotions? Not really. I think most fans will be like, oh, cool, maybe check it out online a couple times. But, you know, people who really think this is a strong move, I think it can maybe check out the independent promotions. I mean, actually, you know what? Why not? I think it can be a great thing for the whole of pro wrestling. So that's where I'm going to go with there. People are talking about the possibility of Silva versus St. Pierre. If Silva and GSP win their fight, should they fight each other or continue in their respective divisions? Clearly, I think they need to go in their respective divisions for a while and then come together for the big super fight. I mean, you can't have GSP do super fight with Silva. I think that'd be just too much overkill. I mean, GSP, if he wins, he still has to fight, you know, Thiago Silva and a lot of guys in his weight class. So I'd hold on this for a while. I'd maybe make Anderson Silva's last fight with the UFC, or second last fight, be against GSP, as his contract's about to run out. Kurt Angle trying MMA. I don't think he's going to do it. He keeps saying he's going to do it. I think the closest he came was he actually had a contract written up with Elite XC, but that's never came to fruition, as Elite XC's dead. But I think he just wants to talk a big game. Could he be successful at it? If this had been, you know, 2000, 2004, he would have been, but I don't think now with his neck, I don't think he could take, you know, a slam from that. I think, you know, hard with nothing, with no give, I don't think he could do that. And apparently, Bruce Pritchard gave away the potential of an Undertaker versus a HBK match at WrestleMania 25, which is more likely to happen. Undertaker versus HBK or Undertaker versus Triple H. To me, at this stage, it would probably be Undertaker versus Triple H. It looks like it's going to be HBK versus JBL, as that feud, which is actually turning out way better than I thought it would, is going to be the focal point for the Raw brand in the undercard level, with the other exception of the title match, which is clearly going to be Orton versus Cena. But I think that'll be the match for HBK versus JBL. And it looks like Triple H will take on Undertaker. Will he win? I don't think so. I think everyone realizes you don't mess with the streak. It's, you know, something set in stone. We don't mess with it. But would it be a good match? Yeah, I thought their match at 17 was good. Definitely a lot of time since then, but I still think it's going to be a good match. Both guys know how to work. So, anyways, that's it for me. You can keep sending questions to the email, the MySpace, or this in. That's it for me. I'm out. Peace.